Dear finance professionals and students, welcome to podcast of FCA Deepak Rao, a practicing chartered accountant. Weekly digest for week 2 of August 2025. The government is expected to seek parliamentary approval this week for amendments to mining laws, primarily to enable state funding for acquiring critical mineral assets overseas. Approved within the government, the bill to amend the Mines and Minerals Development and Regulation Act could be introduced in Parliament as early as Monday. Punjab National Bank aims to improve its financial health by selling approximately 100 NPA accounts to ARCs, expecting a recovery rate of 40 to 50%. PNB is also targeting a total business of Rs 30 lakh crore by the end of the current fiscal year through strategic credit and deposit growth, with a focus on profitability and corporate lending. Tesla is growing its business in India. The electric vehicle company has rented space in Delhi's AeroCity. The starting rent is Rs 17.22 lakh per month. Tesla also leased a large area in Gurugram for a service center and sales outlet. The company is selling China-made Model Y cars in India. These expansions show Tesla's commitment to the Indian market. The Reserve Bank of India has issued the Co-Lending Directions 2025, enabling regulated entities to enter into lending arrangements with other regulated entities for the purpose of extending credit. Under the revised guidelines, each regulated entity participating in a co-lending arrangement will be required to retain at least 10% of the individual loans on its own books. This retention requirement is designed to ensure that all lending partners have sufficient skin in the game, promoting prudent lending practices and risk sharing between entities. The Reserve Bank of India has released the Non-Fund-Based Credit Facilities Directions 2025. The guidelines set out detailed norms relating to the conditions under which guarantees and co-acceptances can be issued, along with specific requirements for other types of guarantees. They also define the regulatory parameters for partial credit enhancement to support creditworthiness in debt instruments. These measures are designed to enhance transparency and minimize risks associated with non-fund-based credit exposures. Capital Markets Regulator SEBI has proposed a separate category of Alternative Investment Fund or AIF schemes consisting of accredited investors, which will enjoy a lighter touch regulatory framework compared to regular AIFs. In a consultation paper issued on Friday, SEBI suggested that such accredited investors, AI-only schemes, could be allowed certain flexibilities given that accredited investors are deemed to have the knowledge, financial capacity, and risk appetite to make informed investment decisions without the same level of regulatory safeguards required for retail participants. President Trump has extended the suspension of higher US tariffs on Chinese imports for another 90 days, averting a return to elevated tariff levels. This decision, made just before the deadline, follows recent trade negotiations in Stockholm. The initial 90-day suspension was agreed upon in May after discussions in Geneva, and this extension prolongs the pause in tariff increases. US tariffs on diamonds, escalating from 10% to 50% since April, have led to approximately 100,000 job losses in Saurashtra's diamond cutting and polishing industry, particularly impacting smaller units. While some workers are transitioning to lab-grown diamond or LGD sector, concerns remain about potential tariff impacts on LGDs. The Reserve Bank of India has clarified that individual banks have the autonomy to decide on the minimum average balance or MAB requirements for savings accounts. While some private banks like ICICI Bank are increasing MAB, Several state-owned banks including SBI, PNB, Canara Bank and Indian Bank are eliminating penalties for not maintaining minimum balances to promote financial inclusion. The Securities and Exchange Board of India has proposed introducing a single window access for low-risk foreign investors seeking to participate in the Indian securities market, a move aimed at simplifying compliance and enhancing the country's attractiveness as an investment destination. The new framework, single window automatic and generalized access for trusted foreign investors, if implemented, would provide easier investment access to low-risk foreign investors, enable a unified registration process across multiple investment routes, and reduce repeated compliance and documentation for such entities. Omnichannel retailer Bluestone's initial public offering was subscribed 39% on the first day of the bidding on Monday, primarily led by strong traction from the qualified institutional buyers category with 57% of shares subscribed. This is an unusual trend as QIB participation typically accelerates in the later stages of the offering as institutional investors gauge broader market sentiment before bidding. The Lok Sabha has passed the Taxation Laws Amendment Bill 2025 and the Income Tax No. 2 Bill 2025 with voice vote. Union Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman moved these legislations amidst protest by the opposition members over the special intensive revision exercise in Bihar and other issues. The Income Tax No. 2 Bill 2025 is intended to consolidate and amend the law relating to income tax, while the Taxation Laws Amendment Bill 2025 will further amend the Income Tax Act 1961 and to amend the Finance Act 2025. Tilak Nagar Industries is in discussions with Standard Chartered, JP Morgan and Nomura to secure Rs 2,000 crore in debt. This funding will support the Rs 4,150 crore acquisition of Imperial Blue Whisky from Pernod Ricard SA. The debt, expected to be priced at 11 to 12%, complements the Rs 2,296 crore raised through equity and warrant sales earlier this year. Mergers and acquisitions experienced a 17% decrease, totaling $50 billion in the first half of 2025 compared to the previous year. Despite global economic challenges, deal value saw a slight increase from the latter half of 2024. Investors are now favoring fewer, larger, and more strategic deals with the power sector, particularly renewable energy, leading this activity. Under the earlier regulatory framework, asset management companies or AMCs were permitted to pay a transaction fee to mutual fund distributors for subscriptions exceeding Rs 10,000. In a recent move, SEBI has abolished the provision allowing such transaction fees. This change effectively means AMCs will no longer be required to pay separate distribution charges to mutual fund distributors for large value subscriptions. SEBI has clarified that mutual fund distributors, being agents of the AMCs, are already entitled to remuneration from the AMCs in the form of commissions or other agreed payments. Therefore, an additional transaction fee for large investments was deemed unnecessary. This move aligns with SEBI's ongoing efforts to simplify and rationalize mutual fund fee structures. The Securities and Exchange Board of India has announced updated regulations governing the conversion of a privately listed infrastructure investment trust or InvIT into public InvIT. Previously, a public issuance during the conversion process followed the initial public offer norms. Under the revised framework, such issuances will now follow the follow-on offer rules. This change simplifies the process, making it less cumbersome for existing privately listed InvITs seeking public listing. Paytm Payment Services Limited, a wholly owned subsidiary of 197 Communications Limited, has received in-principle authorization from the Reserve Bank of India to operate as an online payment aggregator under the Payment and Settlement Systems Act 2007. The RBI has also told Paytm to carry out a system and cyber security audit by an approved auditor. Either one empaneled with CERT, or a certified information systems auditor registered with ISACA, or someone holding a DISA qualification from the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. It's raining money at Zepto as the quick commerce unicorn closes a Rs 400 crore funding round from Motilal Oswal Financial Services. This comes after the Adit Palicha-led company raised $350 million in funding round led by Motilal Oswal's private wealth division in November last year. The company has been steadily gearing up for its public debut, focusing on unit economics and checking its high cash burn, which is a common industry hazard. Warburg Pincus and Wipro Technologies are reportedly in advanced talks to acquire Harman's digital transformation solutions business in India, potentially valuing the unit at $500 million. Deutsche Bank is advising Harman, a Samsung subsidiary, on the deal. The RBI will introduce a new mechanism from October 4th for clearance of checks within hours of being presented to banks, reducing the current time period of up to 2 working days. Checks will be scanned, presented, and passed in a few hours and on a continuous basis during business hours. The clearing cycle will be reduced from the present T+1 days to a few hours. India is set to end its state monopoly over the nuclear sector, allowing private firms to mine, import, and process uranium. This move aims to attract billions in investment and boost nuclear power production 12-fold by 2047. The government will retain control over spent fuel reprocessing and waste management while relaxing foreign investment rules to meet rising fuel demands. Banks are closely watching Indian companies' foreign investments. They are asking more questions about the purpose and success of these ventures. This happens as foreign investment in India has significantly decreased. Banks now want detailed information and proof before approving money transfers abroad. This ensures investments are genuine and used correctly as per Reserve Bank of India guidelines. On August 11, 2025, ICAI announced an expansion of the Audit Quality Maturity Model or AQMM framework through version 2.0, significantly broadening its scope. Under this updated framework, more categories of audit firms will now be brought within the AQMM's ambit in a phased manner. The revised framework will now also cover firms meeting specific criteria such as auditing significant unlisted public companies or entities that manage large amounts of public funds. This expansion is aimed at ensuring that a wider spectrum of firms align with the best practices in audit quality and undergo systematic evaluation to improve their processes. Markets regulator SEBI on Wednesday proposed to define algorithmic trading as part of the exercise to revamp stockbrokers' regulations, which will ease compliance burden. Also, the regulator has proposed granting stockbrokers access to the negotiated dealing system order matching or NDSOM platform. Generally, this platform is used by banks and primary dealers for trading government securities. Under the proposal, the regulator would for the first time define algorithmic trading, which means any order generated or placed using automated execution logic. The current rules do not define algorithmic trading. Narendra Modi announced a task force for the next generation reforms and GST law revisions. The aim is to make India self-reliant in sectors like semiconductors and fertilizers. The task force will align laws with the 21st century. Next generation GST reforms are expected by Diwali. These reforms will reduce taxes on daily use items. A moderation in investor optimism in 2025 has forced various companies to scale down the sizes of their initial public offerings of late. Since January, at least 15 companies such as NSDL, JSW Cement, Aether Energy, SK Finance, Bluestone, Sklos Bangalore, which is Leela Hotels, Swastika Infra, and MobiQuick, among others, have paid their offer values to ensure their issue sail through amid a deluge of share sales. India's commercial office market thrives on large transactions, with deals exceeding 100,000 square feet driving Grade A space uptake. The technology sector dominates leasing, fueled by GCC expansion and AI adoption. South India remains the epicenter, with Bengaluru, Hyderabad, and Chennai attracting major occupiers, solidifying India's position as a preferred destination. The Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board of India has released a discussion paper proposing the deletion of Clause 6 from the Code of Conduct for Insolvency Professionals. This clause currently imposes restrictions on insolvency professionals and their relatives from acquiring assets of a debtor during liquidation or bankruptcy proceedings, except under certain conditions. Removing the clause would help eliminate regulatory duplication, reduce ambiguity, and make the Code of Conduct simpler and more consistent with other governing provisions. The Income Tax Department has released the Excel utility of ITR 6 for assessment year 2025-26, enabling companies to file their income tax returns for the relevant financial year. ITR 6 is applicable to companies other than those claiming exemption under Section 11 of the Income Tax Act 1961, which relates to income from property held for charitable or religious purposes. The first Made in India semiconductor chip will be launched in the market by end of this year, Prime Minister Narendra Modi said on Friday. Addressing the nation on the 79th Independence Day, Modi said the 6 semiconductor units are already on the ground and 4 new units have been given the green signal. Proposed lower GST rates are anticipated to boost demand for packaged food, daily essentials, televisions, and air conditioners, potentially dropping AC and large-screen TV prices by 8 to 10%. Conversely, luxury handbags and cosmetics may see a price increase due to possible 40% GST. Rural India's FMCG volume growth outpaced urban areas for the 6th consecutive quarter, though the gap is narrowing. Overall, the Indian FMCG industry saw a 13.9% value increase, fueled by rural demand and urban recovery. E-commerce surged, particularly in southern metros, while small manufacturers drove consumption, benefiting from rural demand and easing inflation. PwC India unveils Vision 2030, targeting a threefold revenue increase in 5 years. The firm will invest heavily in technology and talent. Focus will be on digital transformation and sustainability. PwC plans to add 20,000 jobs, expanding into Tier 2 and 3 cities. The strategy prioritizes key sectors like financial services and technology. Full-service law firm DSK Legal has received regulatory clearance to open offices in Dubai and the Abu Dhabi Global Market or ADGM, in a move aimed at expanding its footprint across the India-UAE business corridor and the wider Middle East and North Africa or MENA region. Perplexity, the artificial intelligence-driven search engine, has added live data from India's equity markets to its finance platform, widening its global market coverage and signaling a push to build a stronger user base in the country. The new integration gives users access to share prices, market news, and corporate updates from both the Bombay Stock Exchange and the National Stock Exchange. Information is available in real time across the company's desktop site, mobile web version, and apps. The government has prepared a Rs 47,000 crore capital expenditure plan to bolster BSNL's nationwide network, the Department of Telecommunications said. The investment will focus on expanding and upgrading 4G and 5G capabilities, modernizing switching centers and transmission systems, improving last mile connectivity, and enhancing service quality for both urban and rural subscribers.
This podcast is sponsored by Sound of CA. We share because we care. Vande Mataram, Jai Hind.